Hi everyone, welcome back to another foundation road test. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is a LANCOME Tint IDOLE foundation review. By the end of this video, you will know how this foundation wears on my over 40 combination oily skin over a period of several days using different primers, different powders, and that kind of stuff. So if you are interested in seeing my thoughts on LANCOME Tint IDOLE, just keep watching. I do a lot of these foundation reviews, foundation road tests, and somehow LANCOME Tint IDOLE has escaped me. I have never tried this particular foundation, so I am anxious to get this underway. It is on my face right now. I'm going to get to the application in a moment, but first I'm going to read you the claims of the foundation so that we'll know when we get to the end if this foundation lives up to those claims and if this performs on my combination oily skin. I do hope that if this is your first time here that you do hit that subscribe button and become part of the family. It is $47 for 1 ounce of product. There are 40 shades. If you haven't seen my Sephora haul with reviews video, I am going to link that for you guys down below and up in the corner. I picked up the shade 250 Bisque, and it says it's for light to medium skin with warm yellow undertones. I do have my full list of foundation shades linked down below. In the description box, it does shoot you over to my blog where I have a whole list of my foundation shades. I'm about an NC25 in MAC, if you're familiar with that, which is light to medium yellow undertoned. That should be what this shade is. It is too light for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and just state that right off the bat. I am making it work with some bronzer. I didn't want to exchange it just because I would be exchanging it for a different color, and then if I didn't like it, I would end up returning it. So that would be 2 exchanges or returns, and I didn't want to do that. So if you happen to know what shade I might need, let me know. Also, if you wear this foundation and you like it or had a bad experience with it, leave that down below because I always love your comments on things like this. It says the coverage is medium and it's good for all skin types, sensitive, normal, dry, combination oily, and it gives a matte finish. It's an oil-free, long-wearing liquid foundation that delivers medium to full coverage and leaves a natural-looking velvety matte finish for up to 24 hours. It gives you the full coverage, comfortable long wear that you need. It's not thick or greasy. It gives all skin tones flawless complexion perfecting coverage while the broad spectrum SPF 15 sunscreen protects. Redness, pores, and imperfections visibly disappear, evening the skin tone and leaving a mattified yet natural result. It maintains your skin's pH level so that color stays put all day long, meaning that your makeup doesn't need to be retouched and provides transfer-resistant coverage. Plus, it's infused with perlite and silica, absorbing oil for shine-free wear. I do see that the sunscreen is octinoxate, which is a chemical sunscreen, so it's not a physical sunscreen. It does say to reapply every 2 hours. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to reapply a liquid foundation every 2 hours. But I think they have to say that because it has sunscreen in it. But even though a foundation has sunscreen in it, you still need to put on a sunscreen underneath your foundation if you're going to be outside in the sun, because you would have to apply way too much foundation to actually get the sunscreen benefits from the foundation. And SPF 15, it's just not really enough. So it has sunscreen in it, but I definitely would not rely on this for sunscreen protection with SPF 15. And if you're applying 1 or 2 pumps, that's just not enough. So for today's application, I do have on my Hourglass Veil Primer, which is my holy grail primer. That's usually what I start most foundation road tests with. And I topped it with the new Hourglass Veil Powder. I'm testing it out. So again, we'll be testing it out with different primers and powders throughout the foundation road test and giving my results to you in the summary. So we can get to the application. The shade 250 is too light, so I am gonna have to bronze it up. So excuse me if I look ghostly white. And so that's what it looks like when I pump it out. I always pump it out onto the back of my hand and then put a little bit onto my sponge and blend it into my face. This way I don't go in with too much at once. I like to build it up in thin layers. Just feel like if I go in and dot it all over my face, it can end up too heavy too quickly. That can end up looking really cakey. I just started going over in that direction and I really want to do half a face. So I'm going to just stick over here to show you what it looks like with just half, and that was just one pump on the back of my hand. I'm actually gonna try and wipe that off a little bit because I didn't mean to go over there. It looks pretty natural, and I am using the full pump on one side of my face. But this looks pretty good, I think, for every day, because if I build it anymore, I feel like it's gonna start looking a little cakey around those pores right there. So I'd say it's probably solid medium coverage. So you can see how it's really covered the redness over here, whereas over here I still have some redness. I've been out of town over the past week and I haven't been using my normal full skincare routine, so I do have a little bit of my rosacea redness coming through my normally yellow skin tone, and you can see basically on the half of my nose the coverage that it's given. So even with the wrong shade, that's looking pretty good, but I am gonna have to bronze it up to match my neck. So I'm gonna put another pump because that did use the entire pump, and I'm gonna do the other half of my face really quickly. Another reason why I do the pump on the back of my hand and then blend it out is because sometimes they can set really, really quickly. If you dot it all over your face, sometimes that can start to set, and then it takes a little more to blend it out, and then again you end up with the cakiness, and it can catch more on dry patches if you have any. So I just prefer to do it this way and kind of blend it out in sections. At least it's fresh foundation that you're blending out. So I still see a little redness right there. I still have a little bit on the back of my hand, and I'm just gonna build that up right there and see if it covers. I looked into my super magnified mirror, and my initial thought process was that it's not perfect around my pores, and that's okay. I'm over 40. I don't have perfectly airbrushed skin. It still looks really good. It looks really good in my forehead creases. It didn't catch on my hairline. It didn't completely cover my sunspots here and here or on my nose, but it did blur them out okay. I have kind of a red spot over here. It did build okay there, but it didn't cover perfectly. I do look a little bit pale, so I'm gonna do the rest of my makeup, come back and show you what that looks like. My makeup has been applied, my hair has not been done, but I did notice that because I haven't been using my normal skincare, I do have a little bit of dryness, not so much flakes. I just feel like my face feels a little bit drier than usual on my nose. I felt like the foundation maybe showed that once I applied the powder on top of it, and it's a powder that doesn't normally show any dryness. So if you have dry skin, you may, I don't know, want to be aware of that. But other than that, I think it looks good. Again, I don't think it's the best foundation I've ever used in terms of concealing pores. So if pores are an issue for you, you may want to just be aware of that. It's not doing anything weird in my fine lines. Sometimes when I'm doing my under eye concealer, I am testing something today, so I don't think things look the way they usually do under my eyes. But when I'm doing things under my eyes, I scrunch my forehead up, and sometimes certain foundations can gather there and I have to smooth them back out before I set things with powder, and that did not happen today. So I am going to continue with my day. I'll report in a few hours, and again at the end of the day, and I'll let you know how it's doing. It's been close to 5 hours. I feel like my makeup is looking good as far as staying on my face. But around my nose, my mouth, and my chin, I feel like I'm looking kind of patchy on my nose, if you can see. Maybe powdery is a better word. So I'm not sure what is going on there, if it's a powder issue or if it's a foundation issue. This is why I try things out for multiple days. I'll keep you posted as we go on. I forgot to check in yesterday at the end of the day, but there was no more deterioration and of course no more improvement yesterday. So we'll see how today goes. When I was applying it today over this Strivectin Blur Primer, it was doing the same kind of powdery thing on my nose. It's really weird because I don't have a dry nose. So I don't know if this is something with this particular foundation. If you've experienced that with this foundation, please let me know below if I am the only one that is experiencing that with this foundation. It does seem to have resolved itself with the powder. I am using the Hourglass powder again because I kind of thought that maybe a glowy powder might help alleviate that, and plus I am actually doing a comparison of that with the Becca powder right now, so I just wanted to see if that maybe helped, and it does seem to have helped a little bit, but we'll see again as the day goes on. And I actually used it as a finishing powder once all my makeup was finished. Everything looks good. It's been on about 30 minutes. I will be in touch. So most of my check-ins are done with my phone. This one is as well. I have to say I'm not really ecstatic so far with what's going on here. I have to use the front-facing camera so that I can use my finger and look at myself. I hope that it's clear enough for you guys. It's just kind of separating in certain spots. It looks kind of polka dotty. I don't know if you can see. It looks kind of dry, just in the same areas as yesterday. Now, I don't know if that is the powder or if it is just how this foundation is going to do on my skin. That's why I tested out over several days using different methods, different powders and primers and all that. So we'll see as I try it out. I'm not really digging it so far. It looks a lot better today than it has the past 2 days. I used Charlotte Tilbury Wonder Glow primer underneath and the Becca Hydro Mist powder on top. It doesn't have that same dry look, and it's been almost 12 hours. I didn't do an update today. I just am doing an end of day even though it's only 6 o'clock. It's not wearing away. It doesn't look dry or anything like that. So that might be key, is using a more glowy primer underneath, but it looks good. I just don't have a lot of color stuff on today in general, but you can see the foundation is looking nice on my skin. I forgot to say that I only blotted once midday today. I haven't blotted again. There's a little bit of shine coming through, but it's been almost 12 hours. So I always try to give you guys a good daylight shot of the foundation. I have my air conditioner blowing, so my hair's kind of driving me crazy. I do not have primer on this side, and I have my Girl On Meteorites primer on this side, and I really cannot tell a difference with pores from one side to another. It looks really good today. I am very happy with it. I used my Becca Hydro Mist powder again. It's been on about 2 or 3 hours so far. No blotting or anything in sight. Looks good. It's been 14 hours. I meant to check in earlier because I hate checking in with bathroom lighting. It's just not very good. It's kind of hard to see what's going on. I didn't really blot today. I just realized. I think I may have blotted with a tissue, but I didn't use any translucent powder or anything during the day today at all. I'm just realizing in normal lighting, it looks good. I don't know how it's reflecting with the lights in the bathroom. I know I look tired, which I am. I think it looks a little bit shinier in the mirror on the side where I didn't use the primer, but I mean, I'm not mad about it. It doesn't look greasy. I do see a little bit more going on with the pores over here than over here, but again, it's nothing tragic or anything like that. So I will let you know my full thoughts in the summary. Now, before I get into the nuts and bolts of the summary, I do want to update you on my blind foundation testing that I'm doing. If you're not familiar with that, I'll have a couple of links for you down below and maybe up there in the corner too. It's where I'm trying out pretty much all my foundations that I had at the time when I started that video in unmarked containers, and I'm doing some top 5 videos in different categories. I have not forgotten about that. My May was a little bit scrambled up, and at the end of May I only had 1 video per week, but I am coming out with more top 5 videos, so stay tuned for those. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and you can see my top foundations in certain categories. If you haven't seen the first one in that series, it is my top 5 skin-like foundations, and you guys seem to respond to that really well. So I will link that down below for you guys. As always, I have tried this foundation out for more days than I actually did check-ins. So I'm gonna give my thoughts on the overall picture of how I feel about the TEINT IDOLE foundation. Clearly the shade is too light. That was evident every day when I first put it on. I did make it work with bronzer, and that's fine. So if I do decide to keep this foundation, and you will find out by the end of this summary, I would need to get a different shade. I'm holding this backwards. I love the packaging. I like that it's sleek. I love a pump. I'm always a sucker for anything in a glass bottle and a pump. It's not super travel friendly, but I usually decant my foundations anyway into a smaller container when I travel, so that's not really an issue for me. The consistency is fine. It applied very quickly. Sometimes with long wearing foundations, they can be a chore to apply. This one is not. It does apply very quickly, very evenly. I like the feel. I never felt like this was heavy on my skin, and I would say it has solid medium coverage. It does blur my sunspots somewhat, but if I really want a more full coverage look, I do need to go in with concealer. I don't mind that, especially in the daytime when I want something that's gonna last me from morning till night. It's hot, it's humid here. I do have an oily T-zone. I like something, especially in the spring and summer, and hey, here in the fall too, that I can wear from morning till night that's not gonna melt off my face, but I don't always want full coverage. So I don't mind having medium coverage. I get a little more coverage with a brush. I didn't like the application as much with a brush because I did find it somewhat streaky. So I personally usually with full coverage foundations like a damp beauty blender. This one is no exception. I just like that finish. I like the medium coverage. That is a personal preference for me. The first couple of days of this foundation road test did not go that great when I tried using it with my go-to primer that I always start with. That's my Hourglass Veil. This just didn't really work for me that well. I found that it just made my nose in certain areas look kind of dry and powdery. I thought it might be the powder, but then when I tried it a couple more times with similar types of primers like the Becca Velvet Blurring, and there was another thrown in there too, NYX Angel Veil, I felt like it did the same thing. So I switched to different types of primers, which I always do. Guerlain Meteorites, Becca Backlight Priming Filter, Charlotte Tilbury Wonder Glow, those types of primers. And it worked really well for me. It also works really well for me without a primer. I am one that I really do feel like I need a primer. I don't think I have enormous pores, but it does just kind of really blur them out when I use a primer under a foundation, and to make my foundation last longer. This lasts pretty well, and it gives me a nice, I would say velvet satin matte finish as the day goes on, but I don't feel like I get oily and greasy. Every day when I wore this foundation, I would say I touched up maybe 1 or 2 times. That's it. And some days I completely forgot and I was okay with it. So based on the first couple of days of this, I am a bit surprised that I like this as much as I do. I don't think it would be super great if you have dry skin because it did make me look dry in certain areas even when I'm not dry in those areas. Now, do I need this foundation? Because I have other foundations that I like and wear that are maybe a little more mattifying or full coverage. I like the Too Faced Peach Perfect. I like Estee Lauder Double Wear. I like Estee Lauder Double Wear Light, Bare Minerals. I think this is a great option if you want an everyday foundation that's gonna last all day. If that is a need that you have and you don't wanna be too matte or too polished looking, you can really kind of shear this down a little bit, or you can build it up a little bit to an extent, but I never felt overly made up. It didn't feel bad on my skin. Didn't give me any skin issues either. I'm very glad that I tried it. I'm very glad you guys recommended it to me and kept asking me about trying it because I really did end up liking it. And I do like the fact that I can wear it without a primer sometimes if I want to, and that it doesn't wear off on my T-zone and it doesn't start to look like a grease pit on a hot day in my T-zone. It's a nice foundation. So thank you guys for asking me to do this foundation road test. To see other foundation road tests, I will have those linked above so you can watch those as well. And also let me know what other daytime long wearing foundations you enjoy that aren't too full coverage, that still let your skin show through if you want them to. I'd love to hear your comments and recommendations down below. If you are not subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button. Would love to have you here on a regular basis. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.